Welcome to the Foster Your Passion podcast, where entrepreneurs, who are mostly women, share their passions, their lessons, and leave you feeling uplifted, motivated, and possibly even inspired to go and foster your own passion. I'm your host, Haley Foster, and this is the Foster Your Passion podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Foster Your Passion podcast. I'm here today with my awesome new friend, Rob. Do you say it Fortier?
Fortier, yes.
Fortier,
the
you're
French
so
way.
fancy.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
You're like, it's Fortier, baby. I call it Target, so now I'm never going to forget. So
Exactly.
here today with Rob Fortier. And Rob is an email marketing, content management guru. And we are here to learn about him, his journey, and pick his brain on how to make email marketing easy. Because who the hell doesn't need that? I know I do. So Rob, thank you so much for being a guest today. This is going to be fun.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you.
Awesome. I'm going to say, I know you've recorded a lot of podcasts lately, but I'm going to try to set the benchmark for being the most fun.
All right. Awesome.
Awesome. So Rob and I have been working together for the last few months. He's been helping me get my email marketing straight. So I felt like this would just be a great idea to bring him on and help get all of you straight. So here we are. And Rob, just give us a little bit of a background on where you started, where you are now, because it's definitely an interesting story. And I think people need to hear about the journey. So give us your journey.
Sure. How much time do we have? So let's see. So I originally, when I went to school, I studied theater. So I studied musical theater. So I was an actor and a singer, not a dancer. I dance for actors. So I can move to the beat. That's about it. And so that's what brought me to New York City, where I am now. And after a couple of years of being in the industry, I just really decided I didn't like the lifestyle. I loved performing. I hated getting up at 5 a.m. to go to auditions and stand in line and be outside and freezing cold and have 25 seconds to do my best. And then just, I felt like I was beating my head against the wall. It's the lifestyle of people who are in theater for a lot of performers, especially when you're new and you're young. But I just didn't really care for it. So I ended up getting into the business side of theater, into working in theater box office. And so I was still around theater people who I love. I had exposure to the industry. I got free tickets sometimes. I got to see the shows at places I worked, but I could work regular hours, or regular theater hours, I guess I should say. Getting home from work at 9 but not having to get up at the crack of dawn to go do things. So, and plus I liked eating and paying my rent. If you're watching this on YouTube, you could see I'm not a small person. So, that was important to have money for me. So I have the utmost respect for people who are performers, because it's not an easy lifestyle, and the people who make it, they all deserve awards, and they deserve to be paid more, I think. But that's a whole nother point. But that's sort of what I got into the theater, that side of the theater, the business side, and I really miss having creative projects. I'd gone to school for theater. I've always been into crafts and drawing and arts, and my mom taught me how to sew at a young age. It's always been part of me, just to make things and to discover things. So I ended up deciding to start a greeting card business, because I couldn't find cards that I really like. So I was like, well, how hard can this be? Right. Little did I know to start that. So I started drawing, and I put up a website, and I kind of moved around with the different themes I had. Like, I started doing a lot of handmade cards, which actually was fun, because I ended up on a spot on an HGTV Christmas special, which was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So once in a while they show it on TV. So keep your eyes peeled for the younger me out there somewhere. But then I ended up, trying to do my first trade show here in New York. And, I had a good smackdown as to, okay, here's all the mistakes you're making right up front. It's going to be reflected in how little you sold at the show and how much it cost you to be here. So, fast forward, tinkering with what I was doing, and I changed the emphasis of what I'm working on, and the business started to take off. I did, more trade shows. I had reps that were working for me across the country. And one of my favorite reps, who's still a good friend of mine to this day, she and I decided to write a book for people. Actually, we ended up writing two in the greeting card and gift industry. One was about trade shows, but the first one was about working with sales reps because, artists are not necessarily the best salespeople, nor do they want to do those kinds of things. So everybody
Mhm.
wants to work with a rep or someone to get their products into stores. But nobody knew how to navigate that landmine, like that field of landmines of like, okay, how do I get someone to like my stuff? How do I get them to carry me? What do they get paid? What do I need? All these other things. So that was a really interesting turn in the greeting card business for me because I started getting, well, my friend Meryl and I, who I wrote the books with, we started getting opportunities to do speaking gigs and to do trainings at trade shows. And then it moved on to people wanted to work with us. They wanted a coach to help them through these things and to get their lines ready to go and ready to sell, make it more appealing to a sales rep. And so it really got me thinking about, this is a really could be a next avenue because, the greeting card industry, while still around, is not on the, let's say, forefront of growing and expanding industries. So I could see the signs on the wall. There was going to have to be an exit at some point. And my friend Meryl turned to me one day and she said, "You need to shut down your greeting card business and do this instead." And to do this was coaching and helping people. So I decided while I was doing that, I went back and got a certificate in coaching. I am a certified creativity coach, and I started working with creative people in the greeting card industry and in other artistic endeavors. And while those will always be my people at heart, I realized that the problems they were having were also translatable to other kinds of businesses, especially other kinds of solopreneurs and small business people. I mean, if you're a performer, you're basically a one man solopreneur, one man or one woman solopreneur business. The same thing for a lot of people in the greeting card and gift world. I mean, if you're making stationery, the barrier to entry is very low. You need a printer and a computer, and you can make them at home to start with. You don't even need to really invest a lot of money. So, but I realized they had a lot of the same issues as other people, as coaches, as other solopreneurs, all kinds of businesses. So I sort of shifted into helping those folks, partly because they had more money to actually hire me to do those things, but because I really sort of got off on the whole aspect of helping them build their business and do the marketing. And that's kind of how I got more towards the marketing because I kept seeing that was the thing that they really didn't understand. They're like, "Oh, I'll build stuff and I'll just put it on the website and then people will buy it." It's like, people, there has to be a need for it. You have to know how to talk about it. You have to know what problems it solves, and then you have to find ways to constantly be out there. And you, Haley, are prolific in the social media world, so you understand that you have to be putting yourself out there in whatever form you're comfortable with. But you can't just sit at home and wait for things to happen. You have to sort of get out there and make them happen and develop relationships with people. So that was a very that was the very long answer to the history of me. But that's now where I am today with working with people with the marketing. Is that it is such a mystery to so many people about what marketing even is or what it entails.
Yeah. I mean, did we have this conversation? Because we maybe did or maybe didn't. Did you know my brother's business is a stationery business?
Yes, we did talk about that.
Okay.
Yes, and you worked with him for a number of years. Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I was like his
yeah.
first like New York sales rep back in like 2000 when he first started. Before I started my first company. So yeah, crazy. But I was selling to like all the New York paper stores and did the stationery show with him and his wife a couple of times at the Javits. So funny. So
It's a
see,
fun industry. It really is. It's a fun industry. It's just, unfortunately, it's just getting smaller and smaller every year.
it is, yeah. And he's doing some great stuff right now with like big box stores like TJ Maxx and Home Goods, and he's doing a ton of paper. Well, he morphed his business. He saw what you saw. And being the entrepreneur that he is as well, he was like, I need to start working with these companies and designing and manufacturing stuff for them that is just in the paper goods industry as opposed to just
Mhm.
stationery. So he
Yeah,
started getting into gift bags and gift wrap, and now they do boxes and all sorts of stuff. So anyway,
that's
but yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah, and I think like that's the entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like you see where like what you're doing is going and you're like and you see the future. You're like this is not going to be around that much longer. Like, how can I pivot? How can I make this thing work? So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Kudos to
And
you.
and
And then you saw this need for, helping people solve their content writing problem. And so, how long have you been sort of coaching in the email space?
that is something that has developed new in the last year. I spent a lot more time working with people in social media. I used to run accounts for people. And the clients that were like, oh, yeah, just do whatever you want, that's fine, were great to work with. The ones that were, you know, on me all the time, I was like, I don't think this is as really fun as I want it to be. And it was very draining to me in terms of I like the creativity aspect of it. But after one client had given me the 17th newsletter that really looked like all she had done was copy and paste a bunch of stuff from websites and hadn't even tried to write it, and it's like, can you just make fixes for me? I hit a wall where I was like, okay, this is enough, we need to sort of move a little bit. So I went from making the content for people to helping them figure out how to do it themselves, because there are so many, you listen to podcasts or things about marketing, and they're always talking about, build your email list, build your email lists, build your email list, which is so important because especially in the world of constantly changing social media, you never know. You could be the top of Instagram one day and they change the algorithm and it's like, oh, great, three people saw my post. Whoop de doo. So um, while social media is very important as part of a strategy, I think if you can get those people off of social media and onto your email list, then you can talk to them all day long, because they're going to see things because they land in your inbox, as opposed to, oh, that just whooshed by me on Twitter, or I wasn't on Facebook when you posted that, and 3 hours later it sunk to the bottom of my feed. So the people pushing people to build these lists aren't teaching people what to do with them. They're maybe teaching them how to sell, but if you've got a list of thousands of subscribers, you can't just reach out to them when you just sort of feel like it, because they forget who you are. I got so many emails at the start of this pandemic because people realized that their businesses were going to change rapidly. They had been doing live events or, things where they could meet people in person. They had to rely on their email list so much. So all of a sudden, some coach or something I hadn't heard from in 6 months suddenly sent me an email trying to sell something, and I just I reacted very negatively to that. Like, "Oh, who are you? Oh, I kind of remember you. I think I signed up for something from you." So I saw this real need for people to, you have to nurture those people on your list. It's, from doing sales, especially as a sales rep, it's all about the relationships.
Uh huh.
You probably had tons of people that you brought muffins to and, stop by to say, hey, and call to check in on, and those kinds of things. Even when you didn't necessarily need a sale, you were taking care of them. You were, treating them like people as opposed to just customers, I would imagine.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely. And
so,
that's what it's all about, right? And
yeah.
and these days, more than ever, our relationships are built in a million different places. They're not just built in going and knocking on a door like traditional. Like my dad and my father-in-law built their businesses door to door selling
Mhm.
stuff, so they were like showing up with a smile on their face, and personality was everything. And now, with the help of someone like you have to try to bring your personality into your words, because people aren't seeing you face to face and they're not even hearing you. So,
Yeah, exactly. They they may never meet you. The only thing they ever may, if you're not into video, they might see pictures on your website. So it is about the personality, and I think that's a lot of places people get stuck with that, is that they go into the, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible writer, or this email has to be perfect, and I say to people, we're not writing for the New York Times here. We're writing one email that we're going to send to people, and sometimes they bomb, sometimes you don't get it right, and you know what, that is okay, because you're going to send another one the next week. I mean, I sent out one recently that I thought, oh, this is going to be really funny, and no clicks, no reaction. I mean, it got a decent open rate, so that was fine. But and I do this all the time. So sometimes it's okay. You have to experiment and not get it right. But it's about infusing your personality in it, like write like you talk. And that's one of the things I tell people too. If you struggle with the writing, like you can't really get those words from your brain to connect to your hands, then record it, do a video or do an audio on your phone and then have it transcribed. I was listening to a podcast the other day where someone was really confessed that that's how they wrote most things because it saved them a lot of time and they didn't really like typing. So, they can use, you can hire a transcriber or you can use a lot of their machine transcriptions or auto transcriptions, which are a little bit less expensive, but you have to clean them up afterwards. But it's a great way to get the stuff out of your head because with email marketing, especially, you got to show up consistently. Now, consistently is not, oh, I sent out my holiday newsletter every December. That's consistent. It's every month at the bare minimum. Hopefully it's twice a month and maybe even every week. Some people commit to every day, which I think is a lot, and I think that would ruin my life if I tried to do that because it's not my personality. But consistently, twice a month or every week, that's great because you want people to think of you as a resource. If you're an expert in whatever you do and whatever you sell, whatever your products are, you want them to rely on you for advice and resources, and also just to be a little bit entertaining, like to enjoy your emails. So if you don't show up all the time, they don't get a chance to know you. And also, you don't get a chance to know them either. That's so important about, figuring out what your list likes. I said I had this email that sort of bombed. Okay, I'm going to learn from that. And next time, I won't use that strategy in writing an email because it didn't really resonate with the audience I have right now. Now, that doesn't mean I won't try it again in 6 months just to see, once I add some more people and see, hey, maybe this will try. This will work now. But
I thought
you have
it
to be
was
willing to have
funny.
fun. Oh, well, all right. All right.
I
You got to
read it. I thought it
experiment.
was funny.
Yeah. All right. But that's important, showing your personality because you are, there's a million people that there's a million people that do what I do and what you do.
Totally.
But if I like you and I think you're a great
I like you
person, I'm
too.
much I'm much more to hang with you and click on your things and open your emails and maybe buy something from you down the line. So it is about that. It's about showing your personality and having fun with that too. I mean, people have fun on Instagram and TikTok and those things. Have fun with your emails too. They're much more interesting to read.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that. And it's funny, you can tell the difference in people that are willing to put themselves out there in their emails. Like I read your email and I hear you in it, and this
Hmm.
other woman, Danielle, who's also a content writer, I hear her in her emails too. And I remember someone came to me. First of all, I used rev.com to transcribe half my book. So
That's great.
yeah, so I recorded, and this is sort of the trick to self-publishing, is I recorded half my book as like interview style, where someone asks you a question and then you answer that question in the way in it, recorded, obviously, and then you get it all transcribed, and then you clean it up and you make it into the different chapters of your book. So cheat sheet for how to write a book, and then I transcribed a
Ching.
whole bunch of podcasts. So I had interviewed a whole bunch of people on podcasts, and then I had those transcribed and I used
Hmm.
those in the book also. So I was like, oh, I need more content. Oh, I have podcasts. So it's like
Yeah,
helping me fill the
that's
holes.
That's great. And you could even take those further. You could take that stuff and you could break them out into pieces that you use on Instagram and Facebook. You can make them individual graphics.
Which is
There's
what I
all kinds of
do
ways to take that material and stretch it out,
as far as
repurpose
you
it, make
can.
it longer. Yeah, I know. I think that was super smart of you. I'm glad that you did that. And I'm glad that you shared that too, because again, people think, oh, I'm writing a book. I have to, no, this is the modern age, people. We've got faster ways to do things.
Totally.
Uh,
It saved me
Take
tons
advantage of
and tons of
technology.
time as opposed to, can you imagine if I tried to transcribe it? And it was like pennies a minute. It was so inexpensive to do it also. It made perfect sense. But I remember people saying, like, when I read your book, I literally felt like you were talking to me. And
Mhm.
it's because I write like I speak. So,
Yeah.
you and I just sort of went through this exercise together where, you were writing like sort of like the outline for me. And I'm like, I threw like my zhuzhing in there where like I made it more me. And you're like, that's the point. Like, I'm going to write it
Yeah.
and then you're going to make it more you. So, giving
Yeah.
away all the
And
secrets here today, people. Like, Rob's writing my emails for me. Don't tell anyone. Uh,
But a lot of folks do that if you don't, and especially if
I
it's not
know.
your expertise, or you have, it's a great way um, to get that stuff done. I mean, a lot of times it can be a cost issue. You can't afford to have somebody write all your emails for you. But if you can do some of that, it can make you go further faster in terms of just showing up constantly. I mean, I know some of the top coaches, I know some people who write their emails, and it's like I read it and it sounds like the person who it's coming from, but it also I can see the person who wrote it inside that email. I'm like, yeah, he wrote that for her. So there's no shame in that.
No, there's no shame in it whatsoever.
N-
Listen, we only have enough time
no.
in the day, and I always say to people, which is why I found you, like if you are not good at it, outsource it, right? That's the
Hmm.
answer. Like don't try to do it yourself. It's going to take way too much time, which you and I had that discussion when it came to building out Kartra for the new funnels, and it was like you and I can spend our hours of our time trying to figure this shit out, but we could also hire somebody to do it for us and do it right.
Exactly.
So glad
Yeah.
we hired her. She's amazing. um
Yeah.
yeah,
And then we got to focus on the important parts, which you really need to, like the structure of what you're setting up, the
exactly.
content, all those important pieces that you have to do yourself, or at least put down the framework for. So that gave you the space for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be for people in terms of like what's the biggest area where you feel people really need to be having an email marketing presence? And like, how important is it? Like, if you're on Instagram, and I will be the first to say that I have completely slacked on doing any sort of email marketing. And sadly, only it's usually when I have something to offer that I put it out there. And so I know that that is
Hmm.
not the way to go. But as someone who, I also value people's time. And I remember listening to somebody recently that was saying, like when I do a blog post, I'm requiring people to actually sit and dedicate their time to reading my blog post, right? But when I do
Hmm.
a podcast, I'm actually allowing people to multitask. So you can listen and you can run, you can be at the gym, you can be at the supermarket, you can be anywhere. It's like I don't feel as guilty because I'm not asking people to dedicate their time to me. They can certainly do something else while they're listening. So,
Hmm.
in a very roundabout way, well, I mean, what are your thoughts on like how often should people be nurturing their email list outside of when they're trying to sell something?
My suggestion is, if you can make it work, is to do it once a week. If that is too much, then set it up regularly twice a month. And you can sort of make it a little bit easier by deciding what kinds of emails to send. Like, let's say you're big into sending motivational or inspirational emails. Right? And again, these can be short too. Like you mentioned, blog posts, those are typically at least 1,500 words, because you need a lot of content for search engine optimization to find those keywords. In an email, 300 to 500 words, that's a lot easier for your reader to consume, in terms of investing their time, but also it's a lot easier for you to write. But if you could decide, like, maybe every Monday I'm going to send some kind of inspirational email, or a Tuesday tip, or a Friday freebie, right? So you can put those in your calendar as these are the things that I'm going to every 2 weeks I'm going to have something, whether it's my thing to promote or somebody else's, just to add some structure to it. So you know what you have to show up to do. Or maybe one week you do like a resource email where you collect resources for people. And then, the 2 weeks later is like a little bit more, it's a little bit more teaching. Like maybe it's a quick email that has like 5 teaching points of things that you maybe learned this week about your business or something. So I think creating some kind of structure to it and putting it on your calendar, then it's not like, oh gosh, I have to write an email this week and I have no idea what to write about. So put the dates in there. Like I have a reminder, every Wednesday that says, don't forget you have to send, this email this week. And mine usually go out on Saturday. So I know I have until Friday at some point to procrastinate. And then I got to sit down and write the dang thing, because it's got to go out on Saturday. So that's sort of one way to sort of manage it. But I think also too, people get so stuck in that it has to be brilliant. It doesn't. You can get ideas from your own inbox about what are common themes you see that are going on in industries right now. What are people talking about? Borrow those ideas and then put your own spin on them. Do the same thing with headlines too. That's a great place is to look in your own email box. What do you respond to? What do you open? What looks good? What didn't you like? That's just as important. But in terms of, you say like the social media and whatnot, I think with email, it lands in someone's inbox. And so they then have the opportunity to open it whenever they feel like it. They don't have to open it right when you send it. Whereas, and the same thing with a podcast. But I listen to like 3 million podcasts, so I might not listen to the one you just put out for like 3 months. And if there was something a little more timely in it, I don't know, I might miss that. And the same thing with social media is you can be selling the heck out of something you're promoting, or even, or just your message. And if I am never on when you're doing that stuff, I'm going to miss it. That's one of the things about like why reels came into play about, because they'll stick around for a while, and IGTV and those kinds of things. So that has a longer lasting shelf life. But with email, and also too, you can waste a whole lot of money advertising on those platforms like Facebook and Instagram. And unless you're good at it, and there are people who are excellent, and if you're not good at it, please hire someone, because it's easy to just be like, yeah, here's my vein, just start taking the money now, and just drain it all out. It's not the easiest thing to capture people's attention. And on platforms like that too, people need multiple touch points. They don't necessarily just see you once and I'm like, oh, let me sign up for Haley's program because I saw this cool thing on Instagram. They're like, okay, I kind of like her. Maybe I'll start following her more or sign up for her email list. I'll sort of dip my toe in the water. So people need to be exposed to you multiple times. So that's one of the good things. If they get on your email list, then you have the opportunity to do that. You can with keeping this clean, you can touch them every week or every other week to get them, and to get them to know and like and trust you. So there's that thing. I mean, sometimes it takes, 7 to 20
Usually you have to get
touch
to know,
points.
like, and trust before they let you touch them.
Well, exactly, exactly. That is so true. But it can take 7 to 20, points of contact before someone may be ready to even make a purchase or commit to you on a deeper level of like, all right, maybe sign up for your newsletter, maybe. So
I'm going to start texting
that is
everyone this
so
week.
important. Exactly. Well, I
Motivated
did
me.
this analogy. I was working with a friend recently, and I was trying to explain the whole concept of, creating a lead magnet to get people onto your email list. And I said it's kind of like dating. Like if you were at a bar and you saw somebody that you thought was attractive, you might, walk up to them and just to say hello, or you might buy them a drink. And then the next step is you have a conversation. And the next step is, maybe you exchange numbers and you text a little bit, and then maybe you go out again. You don't go from buying them a drink to asking them to marry you. And that's such a big mistake people make with the marketing, is that they go from, I'm gonna get someone on my list, and then I'm going to ask them to buy my $5,000 coaching program. It's like there needs to be some romance in between that.
Yeah.
Buy me a couple drinks, take me on a few dates, romance me a little bit, and then you have the opportunity to ask me to buy something. So it's hard because you get people on your list and you're like, okay, I got people on my list. I want to sell them this thing or this program or this my new book. It's like, okay, but the person that you're doing that to is going to just be like, no, you keep your drink. I'm not. Thanks. I'm not interested.
Mhm.
You're gonna shut them down so quickly if you treat them like that.
I think that's such a great point because so many people do that, right? So, and the way that the world works these days in terms of our accessibility to these people is like we could either choose that we want that person to buy us a drink or they're going to have to nurture us into the drink, right? So
Mm.
I'm scrolling through Facebook and they like, start throwing like all of their smoothness at me in their, sponsored post. I get to make that decision, and then obviously they're like, oh, she took the drink. Now I've got to nurture her into like buying a bigger product. So, right. So it's the way the world works these days, unfortunately, and everyone has something to sell. So it's it's a competitive market out there, but I think even more important for us to be able to put ourselves out there in a way where someone is going to say, there's a million coaches out there, but I really like what, Haley or Rob have to say. So,
Yeah.
I think it's super important. And, I love the tips that you gave for sure. And then, one of the questions I have for you is, so many people, I think, struggle with the subject line. And I think there is a lot of weight on the subject line. I don't know if I told you the story the other day, but I was sending out an email for this new group I'm doing, or this new program I'm doing at my synagogue. And it's called small groups, and they're community groups. And one of the groups is called It's Time for Me, and it's about menopause. And so, I was going to be like, hey, launching small groups, like check out the ones launching this week. And then I was like, no. Like, I need something that's going to make people like either laugh, chuckle, or smile. And so the email subject line was, I'm so excited for menopause. And then like the first line was, well, not really, but I am so excited to launch the community synagogue menopause group. But it did get a lot of response, and they filled up that group in like 3 days, which is super
Uh-huh.
exciting. Not saying
Well,
that it
I
was
mean,
the result of my amazing subject line, but from your perspective, like I know it's important, but like, what do you say to people that are like stuck on the subject line? Is there like a cheat sheet for subject line somewhere?
there kind of is. I mean, well, you hit one point on the head. Is delighting and surprising people, like taking people off guard. Like I got one from a coach I follow recently, and it was like, lessons I learned in a Starbucks bathroom, and I was like, what? So of course I'm gonna open that, because I'm like, okay, I know this is not gonna be anything dirty, but it kind of took me off guard. So if you can like sort of take people off guard and unexpected, that's good. But a lot of times, it's great to ask questions in as a subject line, because it's people like, well, I don't know, and try to ask open-ended questions, not like something like I can ask a yes or a no to, like, do you feel stuck this week? No. Okay, I'm not going to read your email. Like, so try to get a little more creative then and ask it something that's more open-ended. But that's part one of it too. But also, if it's like a strategy, like it can be use numbers and things like 5 tips for finishing all your work before 5 o'clock on Friday, whatever it is, or, how to, so use numbers, ask questions. Those are two really great strategies. But again, I keep a file of subject lines from things that people send me. So when I am like, okay, I don't know how to start this, I go through it and I find ones that resonate with me, and I use them as inspiration to sort of craft my own. But I
Yeah.
do tend to ask a lot of questions in emails. And sometimes I just get a little silly. Like, the one I sent this week was, a JV partner, 2 podcasts, and a checklist walk into a bar, which was completely ridiculous. Um, and then I went on to say, okay, this is a terrible start to a joke, so I'll just get to my point this week. But sometimes you just, you have to, you have to just make sense of it. But those are two strategies I would use: ask questions and shop in my own inbox, as I like to say, look at my own inbox, and use numbers too, like of things. Like if it's 5 things to help me get XYZ done faster, like yeah, I'll look at that, because I know it's going to be concise. It's going to have 5. It's going to be 5 things I can quickly consume and then do something with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's funny is I started writing some of those, and I think it's a really good way to brainstorm too, is to search online and find some of those email subject line lists, and then find ones that
Hmm.
resonate with you or tie into your audience. And I did like a brain dump one day where I just like sat there for probably like 45 minutes, and I took every subject line. I'm like, how would I change the subject line to be about my business, and what would I answer this with? So it gave me like a whole bunch of great content. I know you have like a nurture email sequence template or something that you are offering. So tell us what that's all about.
Yeah. Sure. So I have put to make writing emails easier. I have put together a guide. It's called Create Fast Nurture Emails, and it's got 5 templates in it that you can use that range from minimal writing to a little more advanced writing. That runs the gamut of different kinds of emails you can offer people. So there's an inspirational one, there's a resource email, there's one that you can teach in, there's one that you can use to, like, if you've got a blog or a podcast, you can use to start in your inbox and take them to the blog or podcast. And they all show you how to add value, because that's something you want to do in every email that you're writing, is add value to your subscribers' life. You're not just giving them stuff, you're helping them with their business or their life. So it's got templates you can sort of plug and play to create emails quickly and get them out the door. So if you like to grab that, you can get it at nurtureemailtemplates.com. That's nurtureemailtemplates.com, and just get that for free there. And you can use it to start doing stuff right away. And these are all kinds of emails. I developed it from emails that I get, that I write. I sort of did a lot of research. I don't know about you, Haley, but I get lots and lots of emails I subscribe to, because I want to know what other people are doing, and I want to see how they're writing things. So that's a great way to, get going, get unstuck from thinking, oh, I don't know what to send. And you can use it to create an email plan to get going and get those emails out the door. And some of them only involve like 5 lines of writing. There's one of them at the beginning. So that's the easiest one. If you're like, I know what to write this week, you grab that template, you grab it, graphic, plug, play, done, send.
Awesome. Well, that couldn't make it any easier for people. Amazing. So who's an ideal client for you?
I work mostly with coaches, solopreneurs, and small business people, like consultants, or most people who are like one man or woman bands, or they have a couple people. They don't have enough money for a marketing department, but they need some help, they need some guidance, need some coaching. They're willing to do some of the stuff themselves, or at least learn about it. So those are ideal people for me. People who are they're really good at what they do, but in terms of talking about what they do or getting out to the world, that's where they need a little help. That's when they come to me.
Awesome. Anything else you want to share with my listeners? All 10 of
them. Haley is amazing. So if you have not been to her website and checked her out, with all the things that she offers to help, especially women entrepreneurs, please make sure you do that at her fostering101.com website and her Foster Women group, which is awesome.
This is a plug for you, not me.
I know, but I wanted to help you out too, because I've seen a lot of the materials, because we've been working together, and it really is a lot of great stuff. No, I would just say to people from my end is, I get a lot of questions about what's the best marketing strategy. The best one is the one that you're going to do consistently. Of course, I'm partial to email, because you get people on your list and you can wrap them in your loving arms and take care of them. But it's about being consistent. If you're going to do something, video, podcasting, whatever it is, commit to it and commit to figuring out how to make it work. Don't just try it for a month and say, well, that didn't work, because maybe you weren't quite doing it the way you should, or you haven't quite figured out the approach to it yet. So do what you're going to do consistently. That is so important in marketing.
That's like the best advice ever. Like, that was people. Like, that was like major words of wisdom here from Rob. Like, the best marketing strategy you can do is the one that you will do consistently. I absolutely love that. This can't get better from this point, unless you have some other crazy value nugget to drop here, but that was amazing.
Awesome.
And I try to keep these short. So we're over 7 minutes over our time limit, but it's all good. We had fun. This was awesome. You were super helpful. I love you so much. I can't wait to meet you in person. I feel like we've known each other for a million years. I hope your love is mutual.
I can't wait to drink wine.
I know.
I want to drink wine with you. Yes.
Well, that's easy. And that will happen very soon.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here and to help people out and get this message that people need to show up and do their marketing. Get it done, people.
Do it, people, do it. So thank you, Rob. Have a great day, and don't go anywhere. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Haley Foster, and I hope you'll join me next time for more inspiring women who are fostering their passions each and every day. Please subscribe wherever you download your podcast and follow us on social media at Fostering 101.